Oh, there's Maddie. I got Maddie in the shot there.
Biggest fan.
On behalf of Dee, Alec, Paul, Aaron, and of course my partner here, Suzanne, and Amelia in the other room. Thank you for coming. Every weekend, just about this week, we have kids events. Next week we'll have Karina Evans with Wake Up, Talia Wilkins, right? Yes, a wonderful book at 2 o'clock, and then we have other events coming down the road. But today we are welcoming Valerie, and to talk a little bit about with Valerie is our own kids' room extraordinaire, Suzanne Rorick. So why don't you come around there? You can take off your mask while you talk.
Any kisses from Maddie?
First, Suzanne. Oh, there you go.
I think Maddie's in my spot.
So,
Should we stand up? Or?
sure.
Okay.
So I've had Rusty on my mind. I was just up in Joshua Tree, and a coyote ran across the road, and I yelled, "Rusty!"
Oh, wow.
Anyway. But anyway, Suzanne has enjoyed your book immensely, so she'll ask you a few questions. But first, Suzanne, what were your thoughts on Rusty?
Oh, it's just a really beautiful, sweet book. I think it's a great tie-up for the trilogy. I love how kind of Jack's come full circle, but he's still learning, which is great. I love the whole, like, you know, old dog learning new tricks thing was really great. And yeah, just the dichotomy of that and the new character, Rusty, who's, you know, just trying to figure out his place in life and where he belongs. And just, you know, just because you don't fit into that little peg that the people think you should, you know, there's definitely always a place for you, and I think it was great.
Oh, thank you.
And I was just wondering what inspired you to do this last chapter and like how it came to you.
You know, it's so interesting that Maddie's here because part of it is Gwen. She and I would walk and talk about our books, and she had a book. I changed the name, but it was called Hybrid. And my mind started thinking, okay, well, maybe that might have something to do with Jack, who's of course the hero of this book. As the Jacks are always good in my books because that's my husband, who's a great guy. I'm getting old. The dog's getting old. Time is passing, and so I thought, what would happen if Jack, who's a little bit of a snob because border collies don't listen to this, are the best, smartest, etc., dogs in the world according to Jack, and here comes this half coyote who happens to be his grandson, so he has a bit of trouble understanding that. So, yeah. So I thought I'd read the first chapter.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Please.
Okay. Great. And this is from Jack's point of view. Old dogs can't learn new tricks. It's such a dumb saying, especially when it comes to border collies. But I've heard it all my life. So by the time I started growing old, I came to believe it. I stopped trying to learn new things and let myself settle for all the things I already knew. I know a lot, not just about sheep herding either. From my time on the road as a youngster, I learned how to survive on my own, how to find shelter in a storm, food in a dumpster, water from a drinking fountain. I could herd an elephant, save a boy's life, do a backflip if I had to. I even learned how to read. But what I needed most, it turns out, I learned from the Goat Man. Let me tell you a little about him before we move on. The Goat Man was a real character, always spouting his philosophy to anyone who would listen. He knew everything about everything and wanted the whole world to know it. As we trekked along the highway herding his goats, he'd dream up new sayings. Don't cry over spilt goat's milk, things like that. It would take me days to figure out what he meant. If you make a mistake, fix it as best you can, and then get over it. Good advice, but I didn't always follow it. Like any young pup, it was all about me. Others, even the Goat Man, whom I loved like a father, rarely came first. And those stinking, nasty goats, never. When I was hungry, I wanted to eat now. If I was tired, it was time to stop for the night now. I'd settle for my nightly rub down. I loved that more than anything. And if the goat man wasn't ready, I'd whine and yip until he dropped whatever he was doing and gave me one. So that's not the whole chapter, but he talks about what his life was like on the road as a young pup. And in the first book, what got me started on this one is that we had a border collie pup for maybe a couple of weeks, 3 weeks or so, and we had to give it back when the owner caught up with us, and it was sad because we had already fallen in love with this little dog and named it Sparky. And so when we said goodbye, I started thinking about what would happen to a puppy on the road and how he'd make a living or not, how he'd eat or not, and if he'd make it in the end. So that first book became that story. And when he does have a home, the next book called Wolf kind of explains one of the problems that he has to deal with at the end. So that's kind of the way that's all going. And you said just the right things because that's how I feel about it. You know, that he has a hard time, Rusty has a hard time. He wants to please his grandfather more than anything, but he doesn't want to herd sheep. He wants to bite the sheep because he's half coyote. But then he meets his coyote clan and has to decide whether that's his life. So he figures it out in the end, and of course, it all works out.
Oh.
Yeah.
I love the ending. I got a little teared
Oh, thanks.
Don't give it away though.
up. No spoilers.
Did you have any other questions you wanted to ask?
Just see if you wanted to open up for questions from
Sure.
you.
Does anybody have any questions for Valerie as a writer? Maybe do you guys want to be writers? Maybe, or do you like books? You like dogs?
She reads all the time,
Oh yeah.
but she's shy.
Okay. Okay.
Well, thanks for coming. It's really great to see you. Thanks for leaving whatever you were doing behind and coming to see me today. I appreciate that.
Oh, I've got one. Anything
Yeah.
new that you're working on? Anything?
No. I am solidly blocked,
Oh,
but
no.
I keep trying to, I jiggle it around and hope that. But this probably is the end of Jack's books because he's now having to retire,
Right.
and it's hard for him. And so that's probably it for him.
Did you know this ahead of time that this was going to be the last book in the Jack series?
Yeah, he just kept getting older.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to do finally. So, yeah.
How did it
three's
come to you?
usually the thing,
How did that come to you?
that he was getting older.
No, that to write Rusty. How did I
Rusty.
mean? Was it a personal experience or?
It was really just talking with my friend Gwen about, and she and I bounce ideas back all the time, back and forth, and I help her, I hope, as much as she helps me, and that's really what kind of woke me up, and I wanted to say something that was a little bit different, and I think this book is a little bit, and then I did this one all myself, so to speak. I didn't send it away to a publisher. This is a friend of ours who did this painting that's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, it's a wonderful painting.
And the inside is done by another friend of ours,
Wow. Yeah.
who designed the whole book. So, hi, Josh. So this one's special in that way.
Are you gonna miss Jack?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't go. He's here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you were younger, did you always want to be a writer?
I always read. We didn't have a TV, and
Yeah.
I read constantly, always. And so I didn't think about writing so much until I was maybe a teenager. And then I read, I wrote to kind of get things out of things that bothered me or that I wanted to talk about, journal kind of writing.
How old were you when you were comfortable calling yourself a writer?
55, 6.
Ever comfortable?
It's a long time before. Well, when I had my first book in my hand, which was pretty autobiographical. That's a young adult book. Then I kind of knew. Yes, I could say that, and yeah.
Nice.
Do you have any advice for people who want to get into the middle grade or YA writing? Like any?
Yeah, I think the mistake that maybe I made with my second book, and that it's a good idea to avoid, is it's not to write what you think the public wants or that you could maybe publish, but to come from your heart and something that you want to talk about that moved you. And then that usually turns out to be, perfect for children's books. Always. We're always children, right?
Yeah, indeed. Indeed we are.
Yeah.
Are there any more questions before we wrap this part up? Well, Valerie, thank you very much
Thank you,
for
Mike.
coming.
Thank you.
This has
And
been great.
it was a wonderful reading, so thank you.
Oh, thank you.